In our first story, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin is the Speaker for the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic, but his selection was not without controversy. Of course, we want to know that his election is a historical precedent where a member of the immediate past minority in Parliament becomes the Speaker. This is the first in the country's history. What this means is that in the event of the absence of the President and the Vice President, Mr. Bagbin will act as President. How does that work really? Also, his election means the party which is not in government is leading the affairs on the floor of Parliament. What does that mean for this new parliamentary setup? How about that 137 membership representation from both sides with one independent candidate? Will voting on future bills on the floor take the form of what happened with the speakers? Interesting stuff to find out. First, joining us we will soon have Dr. Rashid Rahman, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ASEPA. He'll be joining us shortly. Also, lawyer OPPONG is a legal practitioner. He will be joining this discussion. And Abraham Amaleba represented James Kwachi Kwesen, that's the Asin North Member of Parliament, in court, and he will definitely be joining us. But first of all, let's hear that historic moment, the swearing in of the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin.
Elect about 2.5 hours ago, an unfortunate incident happened in the process leading to the declaration
a live feed from the Chamber of Parliament.
Of the election.
The Clerk to Parliament is addressing the Chamber now.
Out of which leadership held some consultations. Accordingly, I have the honor to declare Honorable Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagbin as Speaker-elect.
Take the oath of office. We're going to listen to this now. We're going to go live. I'm going to take it live now and listen in to the swearing in.
Yes. Repeat after me.
I, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin,
do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Republic of Ghana.
To the Republic of Ghana.
As by law established.
As by law established.
That I will uphold.
That I will uphold.
The sovereignty and integrity of Ghana.
The sovereignty and integrity of Ghana.
And that I will preserve.
And that I will preserve.
Protect.
Protect.
And defend.
And defend.
The Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
The Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
So help me God.
So help me God. I, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin,
do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Republic of Ghana.
To the Republic of Ghana.
As by law established.
As by law established.
That I will uphold.
That I will uphold.
The integrity of the Republic of Ghana.
The integrity of the Republic of Ghana.
That I will faithfully.
that I will faithfully
and conscientiously discharge my duties
as
Speaker of Parliament, and that I will uphold, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, and that I will do right to all manner of persons in accordance with the Constitution of Ghana.
And so that is that historic moment with Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin being sworn in as Speaker of Parliament. We have been joined on the line by lawyer OPPONG. He's a private legal practitioner, and he'll be helping us explore some of the incidents that led to this. Lawyer OPPONG, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, the Asin North MP was injuncted by a Cape Coast court from holding himself as Member of Parliament, but we saw him go into the chamber, get sworn in, and proceed to vote for the Speaker of the House. What are the implications of these actions?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning. Well, I take it for granted that what you just stated is confirmed, and also that whatever we say on that basis will also be factual. Now, what it means is that, well, the first question to ask is, before a person is said to have disobeyed orders of the court, you have to ask whether or not the person was aware of the orders of the court. First of all, it may then lead to inquiry as to service of the order on him, or how he may have otherwise, in accordance with law, have received the decision of the court. And when that question is answered in the affirmative, then it will lead us to other questions and answers. But that, for me, is fundamental. But as we understand, service of processes on a Member of Parliament or a person who has to be in Parliament to perform some function or the other of a Member of Parliament, that may have to be served to him through the clerk and some circumstances the Speaker. So if the clerk can confirm that he was served with a court order from the Cape Coast High Court, and then the next question is, did you bring it to the attention of the person concerned? If that is also confirmed or is answered in the affirmative, the legal consequences will follow if the person against whom the order for injunction was issued nonetheless violated the order of the court and disobeyed the court.
Now, to those key issues, Mr. OPPONG, and very important questions. First of all, the Clerk of Parliament admitted on the floor on Thursday morning that he had indeed been served at 4:55 p.m. on Thursday. Also, the deputy leader for the NPP side, Mr. Alexander Peyomarkin, pointed out to Mr. Kwakye Kwesen that he was in court when the ruling was passed or was read by the judge, and so he would be well aware that he is not to hold himself as Member of Parliament. What then does that add to the implications as you spell them out?
Well, I would try to make it as general as possible. The point is that once an order of the court restraining a person has somehow or otherwise, in accordance with law, brought to his notice, he has to comply with it. In law, and the lawyers who know better than I do are aware that an order of the court, however void it may be, has to be obeyed before or up to the time that it will be set aside either on appeal or by the court itself. When notice of the voidness of the order has been brought to the court and is proven, until that is done, an order of the court, however obtained, whether even by the abuse of the court's own jurisdiction, has to be obeyed. And if you don't obey it, at that point in time, you don't have the entitlement to decide not to obey it, probably because you think it is a void order. You have to obey or go to the court in obedience until it is set aside. That is how I want to put it. But of course, a lot or all depends on the person who applies for the injunction order. He goes back to the court and inform the court that your orders, which have been brought to the attention of the person against whom they were issued, have been disobeyed by that person. And therefore, the normal legal consequences ought to follow. The court cannot, or perhaps none of us who are not parties, cannot just go to the court and inform the court that the orders have been disobeyed and therefore we cite the person for contempt or otherwise punish him for his disobedience.
So what are those legal consequences? Let's assume that Gary Nimako, who represents the petitioners in Mr. Kweson's case, would go to court and make those demands. What are those legal consequences which come upon Mr. Kweson?
First of all, I think that's a small matter, if I may be permitted. The case, I understand, was commenced by Mr. Frank Davis as the lawyer for the applicant.
Yes.
And Gary supported him and held his brief on the day the decision was given. I think the credit must also be given to Mr. Frank Davis. That's by the way.
Yeah.
But one of them, but the main legal consequence is that the person may be cited for contempt before a court of competent jurisdiction. If there are other high courts in the area, then by practice, the judge who issued that order may not be the one that will hear the contempt application. And with the contempt application, the worst form may be for the person to be in prison for disobeying the orders of the court, to be fined, or to be cautioned, or if it's not proven, then acquitted. These are the general ones that I can remember now.
So we should expect that if things do not go the way of the Asin North MP, he could be going to jail.
If a contempt application is filed in the High Court and is brought to his notice, and he's not able to get the court to set aside that application, and the court rather agrees with the applicant for the contempt, and it is granted, a conviction may follow, and then once there's a conviction, other consequences, as I said, may be a caution, may be fine, or may be some custodial sentence.
Now, will this have any bearing on the actions he took whilst he was injuncted upon? I'm talking about casting his ballot in the election of Speaker of Parliament. Can Mr. Frank Davis, for instance, argue that his vote in that election is nullified?
Well, the order that I have seen, which I believe he has had the opportunity to cite, was very clear. One, not to hold himself out as an MP and not to present himself for purposes of being sworn in. And so if all this happens, then without prejudice, he will have to put up a defense that will be more satisfactory than the case of the applicant. Mind you, it is a criminal or quasi-criminal proceeding, and the standard is very high indeed, proof beyond reasonable doubt. So the heavier burden is on the applicant if he decides to file a contempt application to prove that, one, the order was issued, the order was served on him or was otherwise brought to his attention or notice in accordance with law, that the order was disobeyed by him. He did the very thing that the court restrained him from doing, and that because of that, and all that was done intentionally to disobey the orders of the court and to bring the administration of justice into disrepute. If all these are proven, then it will depend on what the judge thinks, whether the judge is satisfied that the case for contempt has been made. Then the consequences may follow. Sometimes he may apologize, ask the court to forgive you for some reason, or ask for estimating circumstances that led you into maybe, for example, disobeying the orders of the court. These can be put together by the respondent's lawyers, and if the court is satisfied, the court may even avoid convicting the person or if the person is convicted, may apply the good sense, the law, the conscience of the court, and also some mitigating factors can lead to the judge deciding not to apply any of the punishments I've already indicated.
Right. You mentioned the implications on Mr. Kwesen as a person, but I was also curious about the implication on the votes that he cast. Can that vote be struck out? Can we say it's rendered ineffective?
For the record, I have not specifically, unless I mistook I made a mistake, but I have not specifically made mention of any specific consequences that will apply to him personally. That's why I was saying that I would prefer to speak generally. But speaking generally, I'm saying that if an application has to be filed, then what we have already indicated as the burden on the applicant, the burden on the that time, if I may say, contempt will have to be discharged after that of the applicant is discharged. But all other persons may have to, it will also depend on whether the applicant decides to join other persons. He thinks may have aided the commission of the contempt or may have otherwise facilitated. And I think that in circumstances like this, the lawyer has to be careful in choosing who sends to court.
Right. Lawyer OPPONG, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Rashid Draman is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ASEPA. He joins us with some more insights. Doc, suffice it to say that it's a very historic day when it comes to parliamentary work in Ghana. How is the current nature of the House going to change the workings of Parliament as an institution?
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Doctor.
Yes. I think you are right. It's a very historic day. I mean, that was yesterday, actually, with the election of Honorable Bagbin as Speaker, and for the first time, Parliament that is split right in the middle, and then Speaker from a different party controlling Parliament. So very, very historic. It would have been more historic and a huge addition to our democracy if we didn't have those nasty incidents that are going to be, remembered for many, many years to come in the negative way. That is the presence of the military in the House, which was almost tantamount to overthrow of our constitution and an assault on the sovereignty of Parliament. And then, of course, the drama with the snatching of the ballot, which, we've been hearing over the years that these things happen during voting, but, it never came home so clearly like we did see yesterday with the honorable member from Tema West.
Now, indeed, those are very, very unfortunate incidents that you describe, and it interests me that you describe the entry of security personnel into the chamber as a near overthrow of our constitutional rule.
Yes, indeed. The military has no business in our democracy. The military has no business in the, enforcement of, if you like, law and order. I'm not a security person, but if you speak to the security people, in any event at the worst of it, I think this is a role for the police. We live in a country where, we've witnessed many, many times instances when the military has overthrown Parliament, and taken over the reins of this country. And if you remember, you know, in all the military coup d'etats that we have had in this country, you know, the executive remains, the judiciary remains. It's parliament that is usually, if you like, abolished. So when you see the military walking into parliament, and you remember this history, the first thing that you ask yourself, I mean, are we seeing another overthrow of our constitution? And that was what was going through the minds of some of us. We have come a long way as a country that we don't need these kinds of things. And their presence in the House, I am sure, angered members of parliament the more, I believe, from both sides. And perhaps that even contributed to the outcome that we saw yesterday.
Right. Very unfortunate. Thanks for that clarification. But I also wanted to know about how the fact that Alban Bagbin is a member of the opposition party and his speaker, how is that going to change the workings of parliaments going forward?
Well, the workings of parliament was going to be already difficult in terms of the unprecedented kind of splits that we have right now. Then we now have this adding to the mix. Honorable Bagbin would have to deal with an executive that is not similar, I mean, from the same stock. Honorable, our president would have to deal with a speaker that is not from his party, and so on and so forth. And we had the president yesterday. There is no other way of looking at this apart from the two sides sitting down and talking and finding a workable way of, doing business for our dear country. I mean, there's no other way of looking at it. Any attempt to dig in, any attempt to, to try to, rely on people's egos and say, we are not going to reach out, the other side can do whatever they like, is going to spell doom for this country. And I think that, all of us are going to be angry, and, the parties would have to pay for the consequences. The voter is very patient. We would have our day. So I believe for their own self-preservation, the two sides would have to find a way. And our president said yesterday, he and Right Honorable Bagbin have a very heavy responsibility. And I hope that that doesn't remain at the level of just words. But, that should be backed by some concrete dialogue and action so that, our country can advance. At the end of the day, I think it is very beautiful. Our democracy is maturing, and it shows some level of resilience, if you like, in terms of our democratic practice. And if we're able to survive this, I think that would really cement our reputation as one of the leading kind of countries in the sub-region and beyond in terms of democratic practice. But we don't want to see...
But will there not be more tension? Will there not be more tension in the House? Considering yes, what the selection of the speaker was like.
Yes, there would be, my brother, there will be a lot of tension. But as we saw yesterday, the proceedings in Parliament ended very well. You saw the majority, the Honorable Chairman proposing the second Deputy Speaker, and Honorable Haruna seconding that. A few hours before then, that was not the case. So it showed you that all of a sudden, I think everybody is beginning to realize that, look, going forward, we don't have any option. We have to find a way to work together. And, in the lead up to the election of the Right Honorable Speaker, one of the things that I said on your platform, as well as other platforms, was the fact that we needed in the next Speaker of Parliament someone who has the capacity and the capabilities to persuade not only his side but the other side, and then someone who has a temperament to manage crisis. And I think in Right Honorable Bagbin, we have the man for the moment, because he has been there right from the beginning. he will be guided by history. He will be guided by all the happenings in the previous parliament. Previous parliament. What has led to nasty incidents that we have seen over the last 28 years, and how can those be avoided? And I think in Right Honorable Bagbin, we have the person who was there right from day one, and I think history would guide him.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Rahman, for joining us this morning on News Desk. You're live on the Joy News channel. Now, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Al-Hassan Suhini, has been speaking. We'll tell you about that later. But let me tell you this. My party, the NPP, of course, enjoys a slim majority, courtesy the independent candidate from Fomena. By this arithmetic, the NPP was supposed to occupy the right side of the speaker in the chamber. I'm telling you the words of Carlos Ahinkra, the Tema West Member of Parliament, who has released a statement following his snatching of a ballot paper, of a bunch of ballot papers. You see that in the shots now, very famous images now. These very videos you've seen have been trending on social media. We will be bringing you that apology that Carlos Ahinkra has put out for the statement, for the action you're seeing. We'll take a few messages. We'll be back with more here on News Desk. Stay with us. This is News Desk. Thanks for staying with us. Carlos Ahinkra, Member of Parliament for Tema West, has released a statement apologizing for snatching some ballot papers during the election for Speaker of Parliament in the House on Thursday morning. The statement reads, "My party, the NPP, of course, enjoys a slim majority in Parliament, courtesy the independent candidate from Fomena. By this arithmetic, the NPP was supposed to occupy the right side of the speaker in the chamber. When we got to Parliament, the opposition had occupied our seats. We tried to convince and work things out with them, but they declined, whilst almost assaulting the marshals of Parliament. We conceded because of the inauguration ahead of us and sat in their space. Then the Clerk of Parliament announced that the injuncted Asin North MP could not vote by virtue of a court order served on him. After a long heated debate, the NDC still won't yield. Leadership went into conclave and returned with one of the most unfavorable agreements ever, that a clause in the Constitution forbids anyone who isn't qualified to vote in Parliament to vote. If the injuncted MP-elect decides to vote, he suffers the consequences afterwards himself. How ridiculous. What if his vote changes the outcome of the elections before he goes to court? Then we got to voting, and the minority claimed they wouldn't allow any whipping. In other words, no one can show their vote to their whips after voting. Really? Then what's the whip system for? Why then do we have whips? Since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, elections have always been controlled by whips to ensure the members vote on a particular line. It happens everywhere in this world. Asking us not to be whipped sent us all wondering. The MPP did not comply. The clerk ruled that voting could commence after a little back and forth. As the first few MPP members voted, the NDC whip in the person of Muntaka attacked an MPP member and collected his ballot paper from him because he'd shown it to someone else. A scuffle ensued and he took the ballot box himself and the ballots inside away. After a long wait, balloting recommenced. This time, the same Muntaka took the ballot box and ran off. That someone was showing their ballots whilst John Jinapo and Sam George kicked the box and the voting booth. This act happened 3 times, so leadership had to go into conclave once more. Upon their return, they asked us not to show our votes anymore. I immediately sensed danger, especially when during voting we noticed many skirmishes where some opposition members would cross over into the MPP voting booth to vote there, etc. Looking at the slim margin between us, NPP and NDC, all the NDC had to do was to lure or convince a couple of members of the MPP and carry the day. So I indicated to leadership the dangers in that ruling. After voting and true to my words, the NPP votes counted 136 instead of 138 numbers we had. I wouldn't accept that. The irregularities accompanying the voting from the start were too many, which had compromised the voting so much so that I wanted to create a situation for a rerun. Just as my colleague from the other side took the ballot box away on 3 occasions, I also grabbed a few ballot papers before they could be counted so as to force a rerun. It's a very tough situation to have opposition as speaker, especially when he's the president in the absence of Nana Addo and his vice, not to mention how parliament would function by passing the president's policies and laws to pave way for development. My colleagues on the majority side could not help take advantage of my sacrifices to force a rerun, and we'd settle for an opposition speaker. I must say I am heartbroken and dejected. We've not seen the end of this yet. With this success, they would tell us what they want and what they don't in parliament because the whip system has been compromised. This is so sad. I'll die for my party any day. I did this for the grassroots who relied on us in part to survive, the president who needs some peace to run the country, and the greater NPP party as a whole, because we cannot always allow the NDC to threaten and vilify us. I apologize though to my family and friends, both far and near, who may be affected by my actions. The NPP in me could not be controlled. I apologize, but I tried. So that's Carlos Ahinkra in a very interestingly worded statement. Now, of course, we have spoken to his officials who work for him, and they confirmed that he authored that statement where he apologizes to his friends and family, but he says he tried. And he explains that the NPP in him was too much. He did it to try and force a rerun. I know what your views are about that. But let's listen to Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhassan Suhuyini, who says the NDC MPs in Parliament will be demanding a full-scale investigation into the deployment of military personnel into the Chamber of Parliament during the election for the Speaker of the House on Thursday. Now, as you've seen, heavily armed officers marched into the sit-in after NDC MPs disrupted voting to prevent their colleagues from the NPP from showing their ballot papers after voting. Now, the action has been widely criticized, with some accusing former Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwol of ordering the deployment. Speaking on Prime Morning on Joy Prime TV, Alhassan Sohuini said the matter must be looked into.
To rationalize the decision to bring in strangers, and not just strangers, the army especially, onto the floor of Parliament. We are talking, and we will have an investigation, or will call for an investigation into, the circumstances that led the military being there, and the comparison between Muntaka stopping the process from going on when the rules of the process was not followed, and what Carlos Ahinkra did. It's just like comparing apples with oranges. So the process was ongoing, but the rules were not followed. And so the process had to be stopped for us all to follow the rules. It's different from when the process is over. And your intention is to obfuscate the outcome. It's just to mess everybody in the process up. One is intended to ensure that the process is rectified. The other is to mess the process up so you can take advantage of it. Absolutely. I've had discussions with some of our colleagues, and we think this must not go unpunished. Just like Gifty said, a poor farmer is ever jailed, because he snatched a ballot box.
You're live on JoyNews Desk. It's time for us to talk tech on Tech Talk with Spiky. Hi, Spiky.
Hey.
Happy New Year. I don't think we've met on set this year.
We haven't met. So maybe happy returns.
Yes. Now, it's not been a happy New Year for Donald Trump at all.
No, it hasn't. And yeah, it's his fault, if I may put it that way. Donald Trump has not been one to follow the policies and guidelines of every social media platform he finds himself on, and as a result, ended up being blocked across platforms, Facebook, on Twitter, and indefinitely on Facebook. Actually, he was blocked indefinitely. Mark Zuckerberg actually posted on his personal Facebook page that he was not, they were going to block him indefinitely because his actions were contributing to all the disturbances that were happening in the United States of America. We're talking about the breaking into the Capitol building. It was just, people were expecting him to come out and say something, but then according to all these social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, what Donald Trump was posting was inciting these people to go do what they did. And as a result, they...
And I mean, this happened after a rally that they had.
Yeah.
So it's, understandable that those assumptions will be made.
But Twitter released his account after he posted what seemed to be a concession speech on the White House social media manager's page. I mean, because his page was blocked for 12 hours until he deletes those posts, which is something that, Twitter is actually very good at. If you post something that they don't think, follows their guidelines, they block you. 12 hours, delete it, and they give it back. If you don't, you stay blocked.
It's very interesting. Donald Trump and this election has actually revealed to me a lot about how Twitter works. Because, whenever he tweets, especially about the election results, you find a disclaimer at the bottom from Twitter that what he's saying could be fake news because his claims have not been verified. I want to know, is this how they scrutinize all of our tweets when we are going about our business on Twitter?
Yeah, there are certain keywords that if they find in your tweets, they would, it would be marked. I've been a victim of such a block before because I posted certain words that consecutively could mean something that was insulting to a certain group of people, be it people who are suffering from mental disorders or whatever it is. And I wasn't insulting anyone, but the arrangement of my words, according to the computer, triggered the algorithm, and then just decided that, hey, you seem to be cyberbullying somebody with a mental disorder, so we're blocking you. I'm like, oh wait, I wasn't blocking. I wasn't.
But how do we when we are tweeting avoid these things? Because it's not just Twitter. A good friend of mine lost his entire Instagram account because I think he posted some pictures that had copyright issues.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid, these problems when we're on social media?
Well, like I was mentioning in the beginning, community guidelines, policies, all these platforms have their rules and regulations. And we like to just go and click accept, agree, and then just go on to use them without knowing the actual rules behind the platform that you're using. Certain platforms will not allow you to use certain, words, certain images, or certain content that you do not own, like you said.
Those community guidelines are so long, there are so many.
But you could rely on other people who've experienced these things. So for instance, if I've experienced these things, I'll put it out there. So you can just Google it. A summary of this. Someone definitely would have summarized it on the internet. And you could read that and then, know what to do. And, so just go find out do's and don'ts of Twitter, or do's and don'ts of Facebook, or do's and don'ts of YouTube or IG. And
now, we'd better be finding out some do's and don'ts on WhatsApp because I hear there's an ultimatum on WhatsApp now.
Yes. It's not surprising, but surprising that Facebook, owner of WhatsApp now, would take such a decision to say that, hey, most of your data on WhatsApp is going to be shared with Facebook, the mother company, which is the largest social media platform in the world. Now, a lot of people do not like this because they think that sharing my information with Facebook does not necessarily make me feel safe.
Okay, let's break it down. When they say sharing data with Facebook, what are they sharing?
So what you're seeing on your screens right now, they're sharing your phone model, your operating system, the battery status of your phone, the signal strength, the time zone of your phone, which essentially will let them know exactly where your phone is, your IP address, which is the unique internet identifier of your phone, and your WhatsApp usage, how much you're using WhatsApp, how many times you open it, how many times you close it, how long you stay on it, and payments and transactions. In certain countries, they are allowed to use WhatsApp to make payments. So you have WhatsApp Pay and your status updates. So all the things that you're doing on WhatsApp, WhatsApp is going to be paying attention to.
And group details.
Group details, exactly.
What does that mean? So
when you're in a group, all the information not the chats, not the content of the group, but like what the group is wholly about. And profile pictures and your about info. So.
Okay, so here's my thing, Spiky. This is a lot of information.
Yes.
I'm a bit relieved that the actual messages are not there, but it seems very intrusive. What could they be using the information for?
You know, I've always said this thing. If you're using a free service on the internet and there's no means of them taking money from you, then you are the product. So they are selling you to make money. When I say they're selling you, they're taking you and your identification. Marketing right now is very big on what we call demographics. Understanding the person using the device and how much they use it, what they use it for, informs, you know, brands to know how to target you. Because that essentially makes their advertising budget effective. If I'm going to put $3 million in advertising, I want to be sure that I'm reaching Daniel and his friends and not Ezekiel and his friends, because maybe Daniel likes African shirts and I'm selling African shirts. Ezekiel likes suits and I do adverts and Ezekiel is seeing them and Daniel's not seeing them. I'm losing out.
But they could also, I mean, they could also use time zone and stuff like that to make the phones explode when I'm sleeping and things. Anyway, Spiky, I want us to end it on this point, but thanks so much for bringing us the information that you did. Be careful when you're using your WhatsApp. Most of us watching.
Well, a lot of people are switching right now. Even Elon Musk has people to switch to Signal. They're saying that they don't feel safe.
Also, Signal is a new social media.
It's always been there. It's using the same protocol that WhatsApp uses to encrypt your messages, but it's open source, meaning that it's not for profit.
What about Telegram?
I love Telegram, but if I say right now, people say I'm being a Telegram evangelist. So for the first time, I'm not pushing Telegram.
Well, you know who a Telegram evangelist is called, right? Televangelist. We'll be back
That's
with
a good
business with Daryl Crowell. Stay with us.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to business. My name is Daryl Crowell. Some business associations have welcomed President Akufo-Addo's plans to go heavy on industrialization and value addition in his second term. Now, the president, in his inaugural speech, promised to institute policies to facilitate industrial growth. Joy Business's Charles Aite has been speaking with the chief executive of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Mark Bedu-Abuaji. But first, the thoughts of chief executive of the Association of Ghana Industries, Chuma Kwapwa.
You need to be very competitive. If you are not competitive, others will take your market. Even your local market will be taken away with imports from abroad. So you've got to be competitive. But being competitive means that you must have the factors of production in the most efficient manner. You must produce at a price that is very good. It means that your cost of production must be really low and competitive. Right. If you are borrowing at a very high interest cost, if you are buying electricity at a very high cost, if you are paying labor at a very high cost, then you have a challenge in being competitive. So if you ask me what has been the reason for manufacturing lagging behind, it is because our environment for manufacturing has not been conducive enough.
We are encouraging them to work together, because anything apart from that will be detrimental to Ghana and also to the economy of Ghana. We are hopeful that in the years to come, a lot of the bills, business-related bills, will go there, and they should look at it in the interest of Ghana and not in any partisan interest, because anything that will affect the private sector will also largely affect the economy of Ghana and the people of Ghana. So we are looking forward to a situation where both the NDC and the MPP will work consensuously on issues that come to them. Of course, the budget for 2021 up to 2024 from the president will go to Parliament, and most of the things are issues that affect the private sector in terms of how they are going to manage the economy, how they are going to build a very robust economy, stable exchange rate, lower inflation, the revenues and the expenditures, and also debt related to Ghana's economy. So they should look at it largely in the interest of Ghana, and I hope that if they do that, Ghana will be the winner. We need peace. We need an environment that will help the private sector to thrive. In fact, one of the main reasons why somebody will invest in the economy is to where they have peace and where they have a secured environment. The reason why we have had a lot of FDI, among others, is that people feel that we have a secured environment, we have a peaceful environment, so they feel comfortable investing in the country.
Now, the Bank of Ghana has increased the amount of dollars it plans to sell to businesses and banks through its Forex forward auction program. George Afe has more in this report.
Despite the equity market returning about negative 13% in cedi term to investors, indeed it clawed back some of its losses during the year to end the year 2020 better. According to the exchange, the equity market recorded its second highest annual volume traded in its 30-year history, despite a challenging year. A record of a little of more than 695 million shares changed hands, spurred by investors' appetite on the back of low price-to-earnings ratio. The highest monthly trade figures was achieved in December with over 140 million shares valued at 132 million cedis changing hands. This represented an increase of 21% in volume and 30% in value over the previous month's figures. MTN Ghana dominated trading activities, accounting for 78% of volume traded. On the bond market, the Ghana Stock Exchange recorded an all-time highest monthly volume traded of 13.34 billion cedis in December alone.
All right, and so that was actually a report about the record the Ghana Stock Exchange has set in the equity and bond markets. We'll bring you that story about the Forex forward auction and the plans to dispense more dollars to businesses and banks in subsequent bulletins. My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. Sports is up next.
Righty, welcome back to News Desk. Let's do some sports. George, before we do any sports story, we need to acknowledge the Usain Bolt of Parliament.
Yeah, that's the main story. If you have followed the reactions on social media, Honorable Carlos Ahenkra's move is one that can be classed an extreme sport, I should say.
An extreme sport?
Okay, thank you for giving me the video, because now there were a lot of stages in this, and if you have not paid critical attention to it, I'm actually looking to run commentary on it sometime soon. Because first point is to
snatch them.
To make the decision in a split second that you were going within 2 men to pick up the ballot papers, and then you needed an extreme swift turn, and then you had to increase the pace as you were going. This was over.
Then you have to bulldoze your way through.
And bulldoze your way through
those who try and stop you.
And he was turning left to the right. I mean, this is an extreme sport. I don't know what the age is, but I think if this is -20, he should have been great to represent us at the Olympics. So that's the sport. And you see a lot of guys comparing the Honorable to Mbappe, to Neymar, checking the speed and everything. But in all of the analysis, they're giving him heavy points on speed and attack.
Yes, I saw the one with the
94,
FIFA card.
Yeah, the FIFA card. They're playing it. 94 on speed and 85 on attack.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. I mean, wow.
So next time you're playing FIFA.
Yes.
On your new PS5.
You can check out on
Honorable. Check out Carlos Ahenkra.
Yes, he
plays on the Parliament.
Yes, he'll work really well on the right and left. Oh, what a start to the year.
What a start to the year. We
needed something so energetic. Wow.
I needed something to forget how Liverpool is not winning games.
And you got just that.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
But we'd better win something, because that Southampton loss
was bad, you say. Yeah. So it's tight for you in the English Premier League, but fortunately, no English Premier League games this weekend. I've got good news for you, though. You play against Aston Villa because of COVID-19. They may not field the top guys. They may not field the first team. So you get to play against a weaker side.
Second string.
That's if the second string side. That's if the game actually even takes place, because the FA Cup and the Premier League are having a look at all these things happening right now.
It's funny how
the UK on lockdown now.
Exactly, with the UK on lockdown, because with the country on lockdown, it actually makes no sense for the league to continue.
Yeah, but they say that they have a way to go about it, so the players know they have to test it.
Remember what the NBA did when they came back? They formed a bubble, and everyone went into the bubble
to play.
And play.
It may not exactly work for the Premier League.
Why not?
This is split over vast, and they have so many games. It'll be difficult, much more expensive.
Oh yeah, the bubble was the playoffs.
It was playoffs, very easy for them.
Yeah, so the playoffs was just a few teams. I don't think the NBA could have played the entire league.
I'm not sure. They were just lucky that they had gotten to a point where the playoffs is okay, guys.
Yeah, so let's enter the bubble.
So a few concerns there, but I think on the right side, we are excited. We're having some good news that we're likely to see Thomas Partey. We'd like to see Thomas Partey back in an Arsenal shirt from injury in the game against Newcastle. So we're looking forward to that. He's been training well. And as you know, monies that the development clubs deserved have been given to them. You want to go onto my Joy Online and go and read that. in excess of 1.2 million euros, handed over to Revelations FC and Tema Youth.
Tema Youth. I saw that 1.2 million. It's a lot of money.
Yes, a lot of money. So that's another special one.
Yeah, and fans are returning to the stadium today.
Fans are returning to the stadium. Ghana Premier League government has given the green light. So we have Legon Cities up against Wafa. Legon Cities are struggling. They need 3 points badly today. They'll hope their fans can carry them along, but they play against the dangerous Wafa boys. And Kumasi Asante Kotoko are fighting in the Court of Arbitration for Sport at the moment to see if they can turn things around. But I don't know what's
that game that they lost
against Al Hilal, COVID-19. That's exactly.
Anyway, George Ado Jr., thank you very much for bringing us sports. This is it for News Desk. My name is Daniel Dazi. I'll be back at midday with Joy News today. But up next is Mapito Savidi with Joy News Interactive.